Success has a way of silencing laughter. One minute you're sitting at your family's Thanksgiving table, enduring their mockery of your dreams, and the next you're signing million-dollar contracts while they scramble to understand how they got it so wrong. That's how it was for me, Olivia Mitchell, founder and CEO of SecureStack Solutions. Though my family still saw me as their wayward daughter who'd thrown away her stable accounting career to chase some tech fantasy. More turkey, Michael. Mom beamed at my older brother, who sat at his usual place of honor at the table. Michael, the golden child, the Harvard MBA who'd landed a cushy executive position at Anderson Global, one of the largest consulting firms in the country. The vegetables for Olivia, Dad added, barely glancing my way. She needs to save money now that she's, what are you calling it? An entrepreneur. The way he said it made it sound like a dirty word. I pushed my green beans around my plate, remembering the morning's investor meeting. The one where I'd presented my cybersecurity platform to a room full of venture capitalists. The one my family didn't know about, because they'd stopped asking about my work months ago. Actually, I started, but Michael cut me off. Speaking of work, he announced, straightening his designer tie, I've just been promoted to Senior Vice President of Strategic Operations. Mom clasped her hands together in delight. Dad's chest puffed with pride. Even my younger sister Emma, usually absorbed in her phone, looked up with interest. That's wonderful, honey, Mom gushed. Tell us everything. I sat back, my own news dying on my lips as Michael launched into a detailed account of his latest corporate triumph. The corner office with a view of the city. The team of 20 people under his command. The 6-figure bonus. Now that's a real career, Dad said pointedly. Not some pipe dream about computer programs. They're advanced cybersecurity protocols, I corrected automatically. And the market need is? Oh, honey. Mom interrupted, her voice dripping with false concern. Are you still pursuing that hobby? I thought you'd have gone back to accounting by now. Michael smirked. Playing businesswoman again? Liv? How cute. The condescension in his voice made my blood boil. If they only knew what I'd been building over the past 18 months. The late nights coding. The endless pitch meetings. The breakthrough when I'd finally cracked the encryption algorithm that made my security platform unique. It's not a hobby, I said firmly. SecureStack is a real company. We're actually about to. Remember when she wanted to be an astronaut? Emma piped up, giggling. At least this phase is less dangerous. The table erupted in laughter. Even Aunt Patricia, who'd been quietly working on her 3rd glass of wine, joined in. I think it's important to support Olivia's creativity, Michael said magnanimously. Not everyone is cut out for the corporate world. Some people need to learn the hard way. I gripped my fork tighter, thinking of the term sheet sitting in my bag. The one with 7 zeros on it. The one that would change everything. But looking at their laughing faces, I realized something important. I didn't want to tell them. Not yet. Let them laugh. Let them dismiss me. Let them think whatever they wanted. Because in less than 24 hours, I was going to sign the biggest deal of my life. I forced a smile and reached for the green beans. You're right, Michael. Some people do need to learn the hard way. The next morning, I sat in my small but growing office in downtown's tech district. The space wasn't much. Just 2 floors in a converted warehouse, but it was mine. The exposed brick walls were covered in whiteboards filled with code. The open workspace hummed with the energy of my small but brilliant team. Morning, boss, called out Jake, my first hire and lead developer. He was already at his standing desk, 3 empty Red Bulls testament to another early start. "Big day," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. Maria, my COO, appeared at my elbow with a steaming cup of coffee and a stack of papers. "The lawyers have reviewed everything. The terms are solid." I took a deep breath, remembering the mockery at yesterday's dinner. If my family could see me now, about to close a Series A funding round that would value SecureStack at $50 million. But they couldn't see me. Not yet. Because the best revenge isn't telling people how wrong they were, it's showing them. My phone buzzed. A text from Michael. "Hope you're not too discouraged after last night. I know a few entry-level positions at Anderson if you're ready to get serious." I was about to respond when another message came through. This one from Atlas Ventures. "In lobby. Ready when you are." I slipped my phone into my pocket without replying to Michael. Let him think I was discouraged. Let him think I was failing. The truth would hit him hard enough soon. "Maria," I called out, straightening my jacket. "Let's go make some history." As I walked into the conference room where 3 of the biggest venture capitalists in tech were waiting, I couldn't help but smile. My family thought I was playing businesswoman. Well, game on. The Atlas Ventures meeting changed everything. "50 million?" Jake whispered as we left the conference room, the signed term sheet safely in my bag. "We're worth $50 million. "No," I corrected him, unable to keep the smile off my face. "We're worth $50 million on paper. Now we have to prove we're worth even more." The next few months were a blur of activity. The funding announcement made waves in the tech industry. SecureStack Solutions raises $15 million, Series A to revolutionize cybersecurity. Read the TechCrunch headline. My inbox flooded with congratulations from former colleagues, college friends, and suddenly interested recruiters. But not a word from my family. I hadn't told them about the funding, hadn't mentioned the press coverage, hadn't breathed a word about how SecureStack was now being called the next big thing in enterprise security. Instead, I focused on growth. We moved from our converted warehouse to a full floor in a downtown high-rise. My team expanded from 12 people to 50, then 100. Maria hired a PR team, a sales force, and enough developers to build out our platform's next phase. "We need a chief technology officer," she announced one morning, dropping a stack of resumes on my desk. "Someone with serious enterprise experience." I flipped through the candidates. Former Google engineers, Amazon architects, a whole parade of impressive names. But one caught my eye. David Anderson, current head of security at Anderson Global Consulting. My brother's company. "Interesting timing," Maria said, watching my expression. "Did you see the news about Anderson Global's data breach?" I hadn't. A quick search pulled up the headlines from the previous day. Major consulting firm suffers security breach. Client data compromised. Their whole system was exposed, Maria continued. They're scrambling to contain the damage. Rumor has it heads are rolling. I thought of Michael, Mr. Senior Vice President of Strategic Operations, probably in crisis mode right now. For a moment, I felt a twinge of sympathy. Then I remembered Thanksgiving. Set up an interview with David, I decided. And Maria? Put Anderson Global on our prospect list. Something tells me they might be in the market for better security soon. 2 weeks later, David Anderson sat in my office, looking both impressed and slightly uncomfortable. "I have to admit," he said, adjusting his tie, "I was surprised to get the call. SecureStack's reputation in the industry is..." remarkable, especially given how young the company is. We move fast, I replied, unlike some larger, more traditional firms. He winced. About Anderson Global. You've heard about the breach? I have. Sounds serious. It's worse than they're admitting publicly. The existing security infrastructure is outdated, management refused to invest in upgrades, and now, he trailed off. Let's just say, I'm not the only one looking for new opportunities. I leaned forward. What if I offered you not just an opportunity, but a chance at redemption? Help us build something better. Something that could have prevented what happened at Anderson Global. David's eyes lit up. You know, he said slowly, your solution is exactly what they need right now. Have you considered? We have. I cut him off. But large consulting firms aren't really our target market at the moment. We're focused on more forward-thinking clients. The message was clear. If Anderson Global wanted SecureStack's help, they'd have to come begging. David joined us the following week. Under his leadership, our technology team doubled in size. We landed contracts with 3 Fortune 500 companies. Our valuation climbed to $200 million. Still, I said nothing to my family. Mom called occasionally, always with the same concerned tone. Olivia, honey, are you still doing that computer thing? You know, Michael's company is always hiring. I'm fine, Mom, I'd say, sitting in my corner office overlooking the city. The same view Michael had bragged about, just 10 floors higher. Then came the call I'd been waiting for. Ms. Mitchell? My assistant's voice crackled over the intercom. There's someone from Anderson Global Consulting on line 1. They're requesting an urgent meeting. I glanced at the business news on my second monitor. Anderson Global stock had dropped 30% since the breach. Clients were leaving. The board was asking questions. Who from Anderson Global? I asked, though I already knew. A Mr. Michael Mitchell, Senior Vice President of Strategic Operations. My brother? Finally. Tell him, I said, savoring each word, that my calendar is quite full. But my junior associate might be able to fit him in next week. His assistant says it's extremely urgent. He's willing to come to our office immediately. I thought about all the times Michael had talked over me at family dinners, all the condescending comments about my hobby, all the smirks and eye rolls when I tried to explain my vision. Next week, I repeated firmly, and make sure he goes through all the proper channels. Every single one. As I hung up, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Honey, are you free for dinner tomorrow? Michael has some exciting news about his company, and we'd love for you to be there. Maybe he can give you some business advice. I looked around my office, at the awards lining the walls, the industry recognition, the framed magazine covers featuring SecureStack's meteoric rise. Sorry, I texted back. I have a board meeting tomorrow. Maybe another time. Let them keep thinking I was playing businesswoman. The game was about to get a lot more interesting. The following Wednesday, I watched through my office window as my brother stepped out of his town car in front of our building. Even from 30 floors up, I could see his uncertainty as he stared at the SecureStack logo dominating the entrance. He's here, my assistant announced through the intercom. Send him to the junior associate conference room, I replied. I'll be there shortly. I took my time, reviewing the latest product metrics on my tablet, while Michael cooled his heels in our smallest meeting space. After 20 minutes, just long enough to make a point, I headed down. Through the glass walls, I could see him pacing, his designer suit slightly rumpled, his usual polished demeanor showing cracks. He was muttering into his phone. No, Dad. I'm telling you, this place is massive. Why didn't we know about? Yes, I understand the board is angry. But if we can just... Hold on, she's here. I pushed open the door, and Michael's phone nearly slipped from his hand. Olivia? He looked like he'd seen a ghost. What are you? This is SecureStack. Welcome to my hobby, I said coolly, settling into a chair. I hear Anderson Global is having some security issues. He stared at me, then at the awards lining the walls, then back at me. This is your company? You're the CEO everyone's been talking about. Surprised? But he sputtered. At Thanksgiving, you were just playing businesswoman. I finished for him. Please, sit down. I'm sure you didn't come here to discuss holiday memories. Michael sank into a chair, his world visibly rearranging itself. The breach, he said finally. It's worse than we thought. We're losing clients daily. The board is threatening to clean house. We need the best security solution on the market, I supplied. Which, as it happens, we provide, for the right price. Name it, he said immediately. Whatever you want. The board has authorized. I held up a hand. First, I want to know something. Why did Anderson Global ignore all the warning signs? David told me your security infrastructure was outdated years ago. Michael's face flushed. You hired David? Look, it was a budget issue. I argued for upgrades, but... No, I cut him off. You didn't. I've seen the board minutes. You voted against the security budget increase 3 times in the past year. Called it, what was the phrase? Unnecessary tech spending. He deflated. How did you? I do my homework, Michael. Always have. Even when you were too busy mocking my dreams to notice. The silence stretched between us, heavy with years of dismissal and condescension. I'm sorry, he said finally. We were wrong. I was wrong. Yes, you were. I opened my tablet and pulled up a contract. Our standard enterprise package starts at $2 million annually. Given the scope of Anderson Global's needs, we're looking at closer to $5 million, plus implementation costs. Michael's eyes widened at the numbers, but he nodded. That's fine. When can you start? Oh, I won't be handling your account personally, I smiled. As I said, you'll be working with one of our junior associates. Anderson Global will be our smallest client after all. Smallest? He looked stunned. But we're a Fortune 500 company. And we protect half of the Fortune 100, I replied. Like I said, homework. Just then my phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Honey, Michael missed family dinner tonight. He said something about a work emergency. I hope everything's okay with his company. I showed Michael the text. Should I tell her, or would you prefer to? He ran a hand through his hair, looking suddenly older. Can we keep this between us? Just until you're ready to admit you need your little sister's help, I finished. Fine, but I want something in return. Anything. Next time I'm at family dinner talking about my company, you sit there and listen. No interruptions, no condescension, no playing businesswoman comments. Deal? He nodded slowly. Deal. After Michael left, clutching the contract and looking shell-shocked, I called Mom. About Thanksgiving dinner next week, I said. I'll be there. And I have some news to share. Oh, honey, that's wonderful, she gushed. You know, if it's about a job, Michael might be able to. Actually, I cut her off. It's about my company. We just landed a major new client. You might have heard of them, Anderson Global Consulting. The silence on the other end was deafening. 3 days later, David forwarded me an internal Anderson Global email announcing a major new security partnership. At the bottom was a note. All inquiries should be directed to our account manager at SecureStack Solutions. I had it framed and hung it in my office, right next to the magazine covers. The following Thursday, I sat at my parents' Thanksgiving table again. This time, when Mom asked Michael about work, he just said quietly, "Why don't we let Olivia tell us about her company first?" Dad nearly choked on his turkey. I smiled, took a sip of wine, and began to tell them about my little hobby. The one that now protected billions in assets, employed hundreds of people, and had just saved their precious Michael's career. Success, as it turns out, does more than silence laughter. Sometimes it changes the whole conversation. That evening, as I was leaving, Michael caught me by my car. "The board approved the contract," he said. "Full amount." "I know," I replied. "The paperwork came through this morning." He shuffled his feet. "Listen, Liv. There's a position opening up. Head of Innovation. It could be good for both companies if—" "Michael," I cut him off. "I'm not interested in working for Anderson Global. I'm quite happy running my own billion-dollar company." His eyes widened. "Billion? Did I forget to mention? We just closed our Series B, $200 million, at a $1.5 billion valuation." I unlocked my car. "But don't worry, I'm sure Mom and Dad will still be more impressed by your corner office." As I drove away, I caught his reflection in my rearview mirror, standing there in the driveway looking lost. Part of me felt a twinge of sympathy, but a bigger part remembered all those years of mockery and dismissal. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's success they can't ignore, can't dismiss, and most importantly, can't live without. The next morning, I walked into my office to find a gift basket from Anderson Global's board of directors, thanking SecureStack for our crucial partnership in these challenging times. I had Maria send it to the break room for the team to enjoy. After all, success tastes sweetest when shared. Well, almost sweetest. The look on Michael's face when he has to attend quarterly security reviews with our junior associate? That might taste just a little bit better. Success has a way of silencing laughter. 1 minute you're sitting at your family's Thanksgiving table, enduring their mockery of your dreams, and the next you're signing million-dollar contracts while they scramble to understand how they got it so wrong. That's how it was for me, Olivia Mitchell, founder and CEO of SecureStack Solutions. Though my family still saw me as their wayward daughter who'd thrown away her stable accounting career to chase some tech fantasy. "More turkey, Michael." Mom beamed at my older brother, who sat at his usual place of honor at the table. Michael, the golden child, the Harvard MBA who'd landed a cushy executive position at Anderson Global, one of the largest consulting firms in the country. "The vegetables for Olivia," Dad added, barely glancing my way. "She needs to save money now that she's—" "What are you calling it?" "An entrepreneur." The way he said it made it sound like a dirty word. I pushed my green beans around my plate, remembering the morning's investor meeting. The one where I'd presented my cybersecurity platform to a room full of venture capitalists. The one my family didn't know about because they'd stopped asking about my work months ago. Actually, I started, but Michael cut me off. "Speaking of work," he announced, straightening his designer tie, "I've just been promoted to Senior Vice President of Strategic Operations." Mom clasped her hands together in delight. Dad's chest puffed with pride. Even my younger sister Emma, usually absorbed in her phone, looked up with interest. "That's wonderful, honey," Mom gushed. "Tell us everything." The Blackwood mansion always looked most imposing at sunset. 3 stories of old money and older secrets, casting long shadows across manicured lawns that I'd spent countless hours maintaining. For 3 years, I'd walked through that service entrance, head down, playing the role they'd assigned me. But today, everything would change. My name is Olivia Morgan. At least, that's what my birth certificate says. But the truth about my name, like everything else in this story, wasn't quite what it seemed. I still remember my first day working at the mansion. August 15th, 2022. The humidity was suffocating, making my uniform stick to my skin as Mrs. Reynolds, the head housekeeper, gave me the tour. "The Blackwoods expect perfection," she'd said, her steel-gray hair pulled into a severe bun. "Mr. James Blackwood built this fortune from nothing. Now his son Harrison runs the family's investment firm, and he's just as particular as his father." I'd nodded, memorizing every detail while hiding the real reason I'd taken this job. "Yes, Mom, I understand. You'll start with the guest quarters. Work your way up to the main house if you prove yourself." What Mrs. Reynolds didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'd spent months orchestrating this moment. The previous experience on my resume? Carefully crafted fiction. The glowing references. Paid actors with burner phones. Every detail planned to get me inside these walls. Because 3 years ago, I'd found a letter in my mother's belongings after she passed away. A letter that changed everything I thought I knew about my life. "My dearest Elizabeth, if you're reading this, I'm gone. There's something you need to know about your daughter Olivia. She isn't just your child. She's a Blackwood. James is her father, though he never knew. I was young, working as his secretary before he married Margaret. When I told him I was pregnant, he paid me to disappear. I've enclosed his letters, the photos, everything. Olivia deserves to know her true heritage. More than that, she deserves her share of what's rightfully hers. Love, Mom." That letter sent me down a rabbit hole of research. James Blackwood, the family patriarch, had died 6 months before I found it. His son Harrison had taken over everything. The business, the estate, the family legacy. My supposed half-brother, living in luxury while Mom and I had scraped by. But James had left something else, a stipulation in his will that would change everything. The bulk of his $400 million estate would be divided among his biological descendants, following a mandatory DNA test at the 5-year mark after his death. Harrison and his children were so confident in their position, they barely paid attention to this detail. They should have. I worked my way up quickly, just as I'd planned. Within 6 months, I was assigned to the main house. Within a year, I was trusted with Harrison's private study, the same study where James had once seduced my mother. Girl. Harrison would snap his fingers when he wanted something, never bothering to learn my name. Coffee. Black. I'd bring it silently, watching him work at the massive mahogany desk that had belonged to his father. My father. His resemblance to the photos I'd found was striking. Same sharp jaw, same cold blue eyes. Eyes I saw every morning in my mirror. His wife Victoria was worse. "The help is getting sloppy," she'd complain over breakfast, loud enough for me to hear as I refilled water glasses. "Really, Harrison? We should replace them all." Their children were cut from the same cloth. Thomas, the oldest at 25, who treated the staff like furniture. Emma, 23, who once accused me of stealing her jewelry, only to find it in her gym bag, and Michael, 19, who at least occasionally said, "Thank you." But it was Margaret, James's widow, who interested me most. She spent her days in the conservatory, tending to her orchids, occasionally studying me with an odd expression. "There's something familiar about you," she said one day as I watered her plants. "Have we met before?" "No, ma'am," I'd replied, careful to keep my face turned away. I just have one of those faces. I spent 3 years watching them, learning their routines, their secrets. I installed tiny cameras in the study, the dining room, anywhere they might discuss family business. Not illegal. The house security system gave them notice they were being recorded. They just never imagined the maid would have access to the footage. I learned that Harrison was embezzling from the company, that Victoria was having an affair with her tennis instructor, that Thomas had a gambling problem he was hiding from the family. Every secret, every indiscretion, carefully documented and saved. Not for blackmail. I didn't want their money. I wanted what was rightfully mine. My inheritance. My place in the family that had thrown my mother away. The 5-year mark was approaching. The DNA test requirement would soon be activated. But I needed more than just proof of my paternity. I needed leverage to ensure they couldn't bury the truth like they had before. Then came the moment that changed everything. I was cleaning Harrison's study when I found a letter from James's old lawyer, dated just before his death. "Harrison, your father made a deathbed confession. There may be another heir. A girl, born to a former secretary. He wouldn't give me details, but he was clear. If she exists, she's entitled to an equal share. The DNA requirement in the will isn't just a formality. Handle this carefully, Charles." Harrison had known there might be another heir, and chosen to hide it. The security camera caught his reaction when he discovered the letter missing, the rage, the fear, the frantic phone calls. That's when I knew it was time. Time to stop playing the invisible maid. Time to show them exactly who had been serving their coffee and cleaning their rooms for 3 years. I scheduled my revelation for the annual family meeting, where they gathered to discuss the estate. 5 years after James's death, when the DNA requirement would be triggered, when they'd be forced to face the truth they tried to bury. As I laid out the coffee service that morning, Harrison gave me his usual dismissive glance. "Use the back door when you're done. We have important family business to discuss." I smiled, touching the envelope in my pocket. "Of course, sir. I wouldn't want to intrude on family business." If only he knew just how important this family business would be. The morning of the family meeting dawned clear and cold. I arrived at the mansion an hour earlier than usual, my real clothes hidden under my maid's uniform, the envelope secure in my bag. Today's performance had to be perfect. The security cameras were my first priority. I'd spent months ensuring I had access to every feed, every angle. Today they would be my witnesses, recording every reaction, every word. Evidence that couldn't be denied or buried. Olivia. Mrs. Reynolds called as I entered through the service door. The families requested a full breakfast service in the main dining room. "Get started on that right away." "Yes, Mom." I headed to the kitchen, where I'd prepared everything the night before. Fresh pastries, fruit platters, coffee service, all arranged with meticulous care. Each cup, each plate, positioned for maximum impact when the moment came. As I worked, I could hear them arriving. Harrison's heavy footsteps in his study, Victoria's heels clicking on marble floors, Thomas shuffling in late, probably nursing a hangover from another night of secret gambling, Emma's voice, shrill with some new complaint, Michael's quiet presence, always in the background. Margaret arrived last, as always. She paused in the dining room doorway, watching me arrange flowers on the table. Those aren't the usual arrangements. No, ma'am, I said, adjusting a white lily. I thought today deserved something special. She studied me with that same puzzled look she'd worn for months. You remind me so much of someone. I just can't place who. If only she knew she was looking at a ghost from her husband's past. The family gathered slowly, taking their usual seats around the massive dining table. Harrison at the head, naturally. Victoria to his right, Margaret to his left. The children arranged by age down the sides, like a royal court holding audience. I moved silently among them, pouring coffee, offering pastries. Each time I approached Harrison, I noticed him shift slightly away, as if my mere presence might contaminate him. The DNA testing requirement activates today, Harrison announced, scanning some papers. Mere formality, of course. Charles has arranged for the testing to be done next week. Once that's complete, we can finally put this ridiculous clause behind us and proceed with distributing the estate properly. Victoria sipped her coffee. I still don't understand why James insisted on this. Questioning his own grandchildren's legitimacy. Father had become paranoid near the end, Harrison said carefully. I noticed his eyes dart to the letter in front of him, the one warning about another potential heir. Best to humor his wishes and be done with it. I glanced at the ornate clock on the wall. 9:45 a.m. Almost time. Girl, Harrison snapped his fingers at me. More coffee, then see yourself out. We have private matters to discuss. I lifted the coffee pot. Of course, sir. Though perhaps I should stay. This does concern me, after all. The room went silent. Harrison's head snapped up. Excuse me. I set the coffee pot down carefully. The DNA testing. I believe I mentioned in my employment paperwork that my legal name is Olivia Morgan. But that's not my whole name, is it, brother? Victoria's coffee cup clattered against its saucer. Margaret's hand flew to her throat. Harrison's face turned an interesting shade of red. How dare you? He sputtered. Security. Remove this person immediately. I wouldn't, I said calmly, reaching into my bag. Not before you see what's in this envelope, and not before the security cameras record exactly how you handled this family matter. I pulled out my mother's letter first, smoothing it on the table. Perhaps we should start with this. A letter from my mother, Elizabeth Morgan, detailing her relationship with James Blackwood. The dates match perfectly with his business trips to Chicago in 1995. There are photos, too. Quite compelling ones. Margaret had gone pale, her hands trembling. Elizabeth, James's secretary. The one who disappeared suddenly. I smiled. Not disappeared. Paid to leave. To keep quiet about the baby she was carrying. Me. Harrison stood so quickly his chair toppled backward. This is absurd. A cheap attempt at extortion. Security. The cameras are recording, Harrison. I reminded him. Every word, every reaction. Just like they've been recording for 3 years. Your private conversations, your phone calls, including the ones about that letter you tried to hide. I produced a copy of the lawyer's letter next. The one warning you about another heir. About father's deathbed confession. You knew I might exist. Chose to hide it. The cameras caught your reaction when you realized it was missing from your study. Thomas was staring at his father. Dad, what's she talking about? Nothing. Harrison roared. This is ridiculous. You expect us to believe some maid is secretly a Blackwood. I reached for my top button, slowly undoing my uniform. Underneath, I wore a crisp business suit, the exact shade of blue Harrison favored. No, I expect the DNA test to prove it. That's why I spent 3 years gathering evidence, watching, waiting, making sure you couldn't bury the truth again. I turned to Margaret, who hadn't taken her eyes off my face. You said I reminded you of someone. Look closer. I have his eyes, don't I? James's eyes. The ones Harrison inherited too. The silence in the room was deafening. Victoria looked like she might faint. Michael was staring at me with a mix of horror and fascination. Emma had her phone out, probably trying to text their lawyers. The DNA test is happening today, I continued. I've already arranged it with the estate lawyers. They're waiting in the East Parlor. And I've made sure every reputable lab in the state has copies of my evidence. No chance of accidents with the samples. Harrison's face had gone from red to white. You can't. Can't what? Claim my rightful inheritance? My place in this family? Strange how quick you are to deny it. Almost like you've known all along that father had another child. I pulled out my final piece of evidence, a recording from Harrison's study, dated just months after James's death. His voice, crystal clear. If that girl ever shows up, bury it. I don't care how. The estate is mine. All of it. The security cameras whirred softly, capturing every moment. Every shocked face, every guilty glance. Now then, I said, taking off my maid's uniform completely and draping it over a chair. Shall we discuss how this is going to work? As a family? The DNA test results would arrive in less than an hour. But looking at their faces, I knew they already believed. The truth they tried to hide had been serving them coffee for 3 years. Watching, waiting for this exact moment. And this was just the beginning. The hour waiting for the DNA results felt like an eternity. The Blackwood family sat in stunned silence in the drawing room, each lost in their own thoughts. The only sound was the gentle whir of security cameras, still faithfully recording every moment. Harrison paced by the window, phone pressed to his ear as he argued with the family lawyers. What do you mean you can't stop it? I don't care about the will's requirements. They can't stop it, I interrupted, sitting comfortably in James's old leather chair. I made sure of that. Every reputable lab has my DNA profile. Every piece of evidence is backed up in multiple locations. Even if you somehow corrupted today's test, I just demand another. Victoria dabbed at her eyes with an embroidered handkerchief. This is impossible. You can't expect us to believe that your perfect family has a secret. I smiled. Like Thomas's gambling debts? Or your tennis lessons that last 3 hours, but only bill for 1? Thomas choked on his drink. Victoria went pale. Oh yes. I know everything. I continued. 3 years is a long time to watch a family, to learn their secrets. The cameras catch so much, especially when no one thinks the maid is smart enough to access them. Margaret hadn't moved from her chair, her eyes fixed on my face. Elizabeth, she whispered. I remember her now. James was different after she left. Angry. Now I know why. A knock at the door made everyone jump. Charles Weber, the estate lawyer, entered holding an envelope. The results, he said gravely, as required by James Blackwood's will, tested against samples from all potential heirs. Harrison lunged for the envelope, but Charles held it away. As the independent executor, I'll read the results. The room held its breath as he opened the document. The DNA analysis confirms. Charles adjusted his glasses. Olivia Morgan is, with 99.9% certainty, the biological daughter of James Blackwood. The security cameras caught it all. Harrison collapsing into a chair. Victoria's muffled sob. Thomas and Emma exchanging panicked looks. Michael's quiet. I knew she looked familiar. But it was Margaret's reaction that surprised me. She stood slowly, walked across the room, and took my hands in hers. You have his eyes, she said softly. I should have seen it sooner. Should have questioned why he changed his will, insisted on the DNA tests. He knew. At the end, he knew about you. The will's terms are clear, Charles continued. The estate is to be divided equally among all biological descendants of James Blackwood. Given these results, that means a four-way split between Harrison, Olivia, and Harrison's 2 biological children. 2. Victoria's voice cracked. But we have 3. Michael's DNA, Charles paused delicately, shows no biological relationship to the Blackwood line. Victoria's face crumpled. Michael stood up, oddly calm. I've known for years, Mother. Found my original birth certificate when I was 16. Another secret exposed. The cameras recorded Victoria's tears, Harrison's shocked stare, the way the perfect family facade cracked completely. Well, I said into the silence. Shall we discuss the new arrangement? I have some suggestions about the company's future, particularly regarding those irregular transfers you've been making, Harrison. He slumped in defeat. What do you want? Everything I'm entitled to. My share of the estate. A seat on the board. Public acknowledgement of my identity. I leaned forward. But most importantly, I want you to understand what it feels like to be powerless. To be treated as less than human. To be told to use the back door. Standing, I smoothed my suit, the one I'd chosen to match Harrison's. The cameras have recorded everything. Your reactions prove you knew about me, tried to hide my existence. That's inheritance fraud. Not to mention the evidence of embezzlement, tax evasion, and various other creative accounting practices I've documented. I turned to Charles. The estate's forensic accountants should review everything from the past 5 years. Every transaction, every transfer. I'm sure they'll find it enlightening. Harrison broke. You'll destroy this family. No, you did that. By treating people like they were beneath you. By thinking your position made you untouchable. I gestured around the room. Look how well that worked out. Over the next few hours, agreements were drawn up. Legal documents signed. My identity as Olivia Blackwood officially acknowledged. The estate would be divided as specified in the will, the company placed under independent audit. New board members appointed to oversee operations. Margaret insisted I move into the east wing of the mansion. Your birthright, she called it. Michael, freed from pretending to be a Blackwood, accepted a position managing one of the charitable foundations. Thomas and Emma had to adjust to their reduced inheritance, but the family's wealth was still substantial enough to maintain their lifestyle, minus the gambling and secret affairs. Harrison fought every change, of course. But with the evidence I'd gathered, he had no choice but to accept the new reality. 1 month later, I sat in James's old study, my study now, looking through a photo album Margaret had found. Pictures of my father in his younger days, including several with my mother. They looked happy in love, until family expectations and social status tore them apart. A knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. Margaret entered, carrying a small box. I found these in James's personal safe, she said. Letters from your mother. He kept them all. And this. She handed me an envelope, yellow with age. A letter he wrote to you, never sent. With trembling hands, I opened it. My dearest daughter, by the time you read this, if you ever do, I'll be gone. I was a coward, choosing family reputation over love, over you. The DNA requirement in my will is my attempt at making things right. A chance for you to claim your place in this family, if you're half as clever as your mother. I hope someday you'll understand, even if you can't forgive. Your father, James. A tear splashed onto the paper. Not sad, exactly. Not happy either. Just understanding. The staff entrance has been renovated, Margaret said quietly. No more back door. Everyone uses the main entrance now. I smiled. Good, though I think I've proven the most important lesson already. Oh, it's not which door you use to enter. It's what you do once you're inside. The security cameras kept recording, witnessing this new chapter in the Blackwood family history. A history that now included all of its members, even the ones who'd once been told to use the back door. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying a family. Sometimes it's about forcing them to become better than they were, to acknowledge their mistakes, face their secrets, and maybe, just maybe, learn to be the kind of family they should have been all along. As for me, I had claimed my birthright, exposed the truth, and changed the power dynamics forever. But sitting in that study, holding my father's letter, I realized something important. The real victory wasn't in the money or the status. It was in finally belonging. Not as the maid who served coffee, but as Olivia Blackwood, the daughter who came back to claim her place, and in doing so, forced an entire family to confront their own reflection. The cameras could stop recording now. This story's ending had already been written, not in DNA tests or legal documents, but in the simple truth that sometimes justice comes dressed in a maid's uniform, serving coffee and waiting for exactly the right moment to pour out something much stronger than revenge.